So if you're here, you may be aware of the fact that SeptyPaws has threatened to sue me. Within just one day, a lot has happened in regards to this situation that I will be discussing now. Now, at the time of me making my first video on this, I was rightfully afraid of the damage Septy might do to me. After all, no one wants to wake up at 2 in the morning to find out they're getting sued. Now, initially I had a video planned for the next day in regards to this incident. Keep in mind this video was made before the lawsuit threat was made against me, but for context's sake, I'm going to play it now. What's up, gamers? Kamen Rider here with an update for the strike situation. So after my video, Kirito the Hedgehog announced that they weren't the ones who did it. After a bit of pushing from my end, they eventually showed their flag history, which is empty. So yeah, all eyes are on SeptyPaws now, to which SeptyPaws is ignoring it. How do I know that they're ignoring it? Because I even added SeptyPaws in the community post announcing Kirito's innocence. And Septy still ignores it. But don't worry. I promised Dasher I'd restore that video, and goddammit I'm gonna try. Oh, and I was gonna end it here, but believe it or not, according to Call Me Nil, both Person 2 and Neko Koda denounced Septy's actions. You know you fucked up when the Doxer hates what you did. I wasn't even charitable to Neko Koda. I exposed her a little bit too, but damn, even she doesn't like what Septy did. Oh, by the way, Neko Koda, that offer I proposed in the DMs of the original video is still on the table if you're interested. Just let Nil know your answer and I'll see if I can arrange something. But until then, gamers, have a good night.
So am I. So am I. So am I.
The night of that video's creation was the night that everything went downhill. Now, some of you may be worried about me talking about this further given the lawsuit threat. I was afraid too, but I want to say that I sort of decided one thing. I don't care. Even if I'm gagging at the end of a gun barrel, I've been taught to never back down from what I believe in. Also, I've since found out that Septy does not have the resources to sue me. Hiring a lawyer is $400 an hour. Septy does not have a job, and I highly doubt that Septy's boyfriend would support this kind of behavior. However, SeptyPaws seems to have my information, as they apparently got it from some database Lio Convoy uses, which they don't specify. Great! I know why they don't specify. Perhaps it's to not have me ask to get my information pulled from the site they use. I can't imagine why they brag about how any and all Americans' info is easy to find, but then proceed to not say where they got it from. More on that in a second. The first discovery comes from the fact that SeptyPaws' real name isn't Blake Heist, nor is it Mikey. How do I know this? Because Nil told me what Septy's actual name was. Now I want to make this clear. I did not ask for this information. This was given to me by Nil the morning after the video went up. Well, I say morning, but I mean like the actual morning of 7:14 a.m. Now, I am not going to say what this name is because I want to respect their actual privacy, but Call Me Nil can attest that Blake Heist is not a real name. Now I bring up Mikey as that was the name of the email used to flag Neko Koda didn't tell the full story. I used this in the April Fool's video that I made in response to Septy's April Fool's video. Septy also attempted to send a privacy complaint to this video, but it didn't go through because, well, their name isn't Mikey. However, I want you to pay attention to this scene right here. Specifically what the background is. Yes, that is from the time Septy asked Nil to have her mafia friends kill me. Now, obviously this is very bad and 100% something the court will bring up, if we are to assume that Septy isn't bluffing. But there's another reason I show you this that we will get into later. What I'm trying to say right now is that no privacy was being violated, and as stated in my 2 AM video, I had no idea this email was connected to any IRL info about Septy until now. If I had known, I wouldn't show it. Now we are going to get into Septy's community posts about this situation, and I will cover them one by one. Let's start with one that predates the original post, announcing the lawsuit. This was in response to me announcing that Kirito was not the one who initiated the strike. Septy just claims that their email was attached to their real name, phone number, and home address. Now, I have stated that I couldn't have known that these pieces of info were attached to the Blake Heist email, especially when you consider that Septy told Loon that this was their friend's account when I called them out for using this account to block evade. Unless I'm actively Googling someone's email address, I wouldn't have known their real-life info was attached. I don't know how to locate people. I'm not Lio. Now let's get into the post I showed in the 2 AM video. Firstly, Septy denies using ChatGPT. Okay. I'm not sure how that's relevant to you flagging me. SeptyPaws then turns to Kirito and immediately addresses him. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that, but I will bring your attention to this.
After all the manipulative bullshit you pulled, you really are going to hell, because you have no regards for anyone you've hurt. The fact that you only apologize after you got caught in video form when you had weeks to come clean proves you don't mean a word you say.
So you indirectly say that your clan Kirito got caught in a video, but then you proceed to issue a takedown of said video. Septy, when that info isn't public, the proof against Kirito is gone. Then we get into the part where Septy addresses me. They proceed to double down on the point that me mentioning their fake name email was doxing because apparently Googling that email can get their address, name, and number pulled up. I explained this already, but remember this for something in a moment. Septy then claims that I stalked them, harassed them, and slandered them, and then threatens to take legal action. Now, I know Septy's claims are bogus, but I did my homework anyways, just to make sure. Let's go over that first part. Stalking. While I'm not a lawyer, the site I'm using belongs to a lawyer, named Brian Fitzpatrick. Let's go over what stalking and cyberstalking is, and see if I have done any of those. What are some examples of stalking? Examples of stalking may include following you around or spying on you. Obviously, I have not done this to Septy as I do not know where they live, and any screenshots I pull up are either from DMs or a public posts and comments, sending you unwanted emails or letters. I personally have not sent an email to SeptyPaws. Calling you often. Not something I've done. I've called Septy over Discord, but I have not called them often. If anything, I'm against the idea of calling them. And even then, this article was most likely referring to actual phone calls, not Discord calls. Showing up uninvited at your house, school, or work. Again, I do not know where they live, therefore I did not do this. That also goes for leaving you unwanted gifts and damaging your home, car, or other property. Also, threatening you, your family, or pets with violence is not something I've done either. I know I mentioned organized fights in the end of the true SeptyPaws, but organized fights between consenting adults isn't illegal. Now let's look into some examples of cyberstalking. Sending unwanted, frightening, or obscene emails or text messages. As I have stated, I have not threatened Septy, nor do I wish to communicate with them. Harassing or threatening you on social media. Now we're gonna get into harassment next because I have a separate article regarding that. Tracking your computer and internet use. I'm not sure what they mean by this. The closest thing to this that I might have done is look at their Twitter and YouTube channel. But if that makes me a stalker, then fuck it, I'm a stalker. Everyone's a fucking stalker if you use that logic. Using technology such as GPS to track where you are. I don't know how to make computer viruses. I don't know how to make phone viruses. I don't know how to make viruses, period. I'm not sure how I would even go about doing this. I know Septy's not stupid enough to click a Grabify link or install a random APK, and I wouldn't want to do these things in the first place. Now, something I noticed when looking at this list is that Septy is guilty of doing some of these things themselves. Sending unwanted, frightening, or obscene emails or text messages. This might be a stretch, but I'm thinking back to when Septy stressed out Redgear by spamming him with old friend requests. Threatening you, your family, or pets with violence. Now, we're going to get to this section officially later, but there's this sentence from SeptyPaws' community post.
Your name, your workplace, and your home address is public information. It took me less than 20 minutes to find them all. I can start making phone calls at any given point, so you better back off and leave me alone forever.
Now, this already sounds like a threat, but there's a part where Septy actually threatens Kirito by claiming they're gonna call his parents. Kirito is a grown man. Outside of humiliating him and harassing his family, there is no incentive to do such thing. We really have reached Quantum TV levels of drama now, huh? Fuck it, we reached Quantum TV levels when Septy struck Neko Coda didn't tell the full story. Either way, these are in fact threats. Now, let's move on to the harassment claim. Now, the site I use relates to laws in my state of Texas. No, I don't mind people knowing I'm from Texas. It's one of the largest states in the US. My city, however, shall remain private. According to criminal attorney Fort Worth, no, I do not live in Fort Worth, but this relates to Texas as a whole. A few actions that are considered criminal harassment in Texas include threatening someone with physical harm, We've been over that. Same with threatening to commit a felony against someone, their property, or one of their family members. Requesting that someone perform an obscene activity such as a sexual favor. At most, I've made sex jokes at the expense of Neko Koda and Hopeless Peaches. 1, those were jokes, and 2, none of these targeted Septy. Unless this alleged lawsuit is a class action suit, which I doubt given how even people who hate me despise what Septy did. This has no basis here, as this was not committed against Septy or at all. Falsely reporting that someone has suffered severe bodily injury or death. I didn't do this, nor do I know how I'd even do this and get away with it. Calling someone repeatedly on the phone in a manner meant to be annoying. I already went over this in the stalking segment. Sending electronic communications like text messages or emails in a threatening, abusive, or annoying manner. Unless criticizing someone through YouTube videos counts as electronic communications in a threatening, abusive, or annoying manner, I didn't do this. However, similar to before, these are things that Septy actually did. Calling someone repeatedly on the phone in a manner meant to be annoying goes back to Red Gear being spam added, but also threatening someone with physical harm. Now let's go back to that scene with the screenshot from before. Now, the privacy complaint talks about this part specifically. Now, if this went through, I would either 1, have to blur the name, or 2, have to cut the part out as a whole. Personally, I don't think this was in relation to their privacy. I think this was meant to bank on the possibility of me cutting this part out to get rid of the evidence of them asking Nil to have me killed. Yeah, this screenshot appears in the true SeptyPaws, but not everyone wants to dedicate time in their life to a drama this long. Especially not a lawyer. So if SeptyPaws does have a lawyer, they could be taking down the video to look good in the eyes of the lawyer. Either that or they're trying to look good in the eyes of the public again. Now we move on to slander. On the website freemanlaw.com, according to them, to prove a successful defamation claim, the plaintiff must show the following. 1. The defendant published a false statement. 2. That defamed the plaintiff. 3. With the requisite degree of fault regarding the statement's truth. And 4. Damages. Unless the statement constitutes defamation per se. I have not published a false statement. There are people like Heffrom and Septy who have claimed I lied, but failed to actually provide proof, outside of saying it louder and hope it makes it more valid. Arguably, SeptyPaws have defamed themselves, as Septy's public reputation only went down after striking Neko Koda didn't tell the full story. And I have not done any damages to Septy. SeptyPaws is free to leave the platform and live their life normally. They don't show their face, so it's not like anyone would recognize them in person. And I certainly can't do anything about it. I doubt Septy would lose out on any job opportunities because of a video that only has 3.8k views, which isn't large in terms of YouTube numbers. If we are to factor in all these things we've gone over, then that means Septy doesn't have the ability to sue me. However, according to Nil, SeptyPaws does have my info. They have the ability to call my family, send things to my house, show up at my house, have other people sent to my house, and call my work. It's funny how Septy claims that their email is one Google search away from finding their info and claims that that is doxing, yet my personal info being one Google search away somehow isn't doxing. I don't care how many times Septy tries to say, your info is public, because clearly I did not consent to it being public. It seems like nothing more than a moral justification for a crime that has no moral justification. This is the same excuse Depressed Nosagi tried to use when doxing the Hololive girls on his Patreon. Their info is public if you know where to look on Google. Okay, but did they consent to it being on Google? And did they want said information being posted alongside their VTuber personas? No. Same applies here. I don't want my IRL info on wherever this website is, and I'm going to do everything in my power to take it off. SeptyPaws then ends the post with,
You're not the victim!
I don't know about you, but this feels sort of gaslighty. So after this, the next day, Asher announced what happened in regards to SeptyPaws on their community tab, and SeptyPaws responded because of course they did. Firstly, Septy makes fun of Asher for being 30, something that both Kirito and Septy has done to people in the past, and then Septy threatens to talk about Asher's past, as if that's relevant to what was being said. Funny how Septy reached an olive branch to Asher, but then as soon as Asher rejected Septy's offer, they do exactly what his abuser did, which proves that Septy never cared about Asher to begin with. Also, Septy claims that Asher didn't give the real reason why I got my video taken down, which, according to SeptyPaws, was in regards to their email. I don't believe this. It's very obvious that this was done to get my video taken down, so SeptyPaws could get a chance to silence me. Septy then says what I did leaked into their personal life, which, one, this is the same excuse Spoctor used for having CP, the Spoctor situation being one Septy actively made videos on. 2, you don't have proof of this, so why should I believe you? And 3, maybe that's a sign that you were in the wrong in this entire situation, and you should have used that as a reason to take the L and accept responsibility like an adult for once in your life. Then Kirito of all people jumped in, and of course Septy responded. They claim that Kirito doesn't understand the severity of false claims, which is ironic because SeptyPaws throws around false accusations at me like candy. They claim I accused them of attempted murder, doxing, and most absurd of all, child abuse. Let's go over each of these and explain why some of these aren't just accusations. First is the biggest one, attempted murder. Obviously, the time they asked Nil to have her mafia friends kill me. This isn't just an accusation, it's true. Contract killing is considered murder, so you did commit attempted murder. Then there's the accusation of doxing. This was one of the first things that was brought up in the true SeptyPaws. That being Kumo's first IRL name being doxed to Mr. Aces. Kumo's first name isn't public info. Now I want to make this clear. Yes, I am aware Kumo doesn't like me. The feeling is mutual. And I am aware that Kumo has gotten himself into trouble outside of the shit with me. But this does not mean that Kumo deserves to be doxed. However, I'm going to ask you to put a pin in it for later. Now, the claim of child abuse had me dumbfounded. I legit had to think back for this one, and soon realized that... SeptyPaws was referring to a meme I made in the true SeptyPaws that involves that one scene of Peter Griffin beating up that kid. Septy, that's not an accusation. I was making a joke at your expense in relation to your anger issues. I wouldn't have any way of knowing if you were a child abuser because you don't have kids. Septy then mentions a vague, many other false BS that they don't elaborate on, because keeping it vague makes it seem like there's more than there actually is. Septy then reiterates them being slandered, which we already proved was false. Septy then claims that Kirito being an awful person doesn't give Kirito the right to criticize them. Yes, Kirito did abuse Asher, but that does not make what Kirito said any less true. And then SeptyPaws begins to threaten Kirito with calling his parents. His next post is of Septy talking about Kirito's videos, saying that me showing Kirito's IRL name in the screenshot was doxing. Now, I hadn't known Kirito didn't want his real name out there. If I had known, I wouldn't have shown it. So I do apologize for that. In the next post, Septy tries to sort of prove this by showing a screenshot with their name in it. Kirito then replied to this post stating that I have him blocked, which I do because I'm not exactly fond of abusers. But then Septy tries to claim that Kirito lied about Septy, to which he hasn't. Septy also claiming that Kirito is forcing my hand here, which seems more like a vague threat. Kirito then rightfully calls out this petty behavior, then Septy replies with the claim, your name is public to begin with, like it is with every single American if you look hard enough, which again is trying to justify an unjustifiable crime. In the next post, Septy claims I had Kirito go after Septy, to which I didn't. He did that on his own. Septy further claims I threatened their security and put false allegations, which we proved were not allegations. Septy then proposes I get in a call with them to talk things out. No. Then they proceed to say, I'd rather not go through the whole legal process if I can help it. Which, if you don't want to, then just don't. You don't need to get lawyers involved. I know you're full of shit, but you are not helping your case. Assuming you even have one to begin with. Somebody then criticizes me for hearting comments on the 2 a.m. video. Imagine getting upset because someone hearted a comment. Like, you have to be level 100 petty to legitimately get upset over that. The next post is Septy just saying shit we already went over, but does point out something I didn't find out until recently.
Still funny, Kirito claims I doxed him when I called him out by his first name after he gave screenshots of Carmen with his own volition that had featured his name uncensored. It was shown and read out, and it was also still publicly available on Rumble.
Yeah, I forgot I had a Rumble. Granted, I don't use it that often since it was weird about mirroring my content from YouTube, so I just relied on Odyssey for that. Both videos are available on those sites and also BitChute, albeit with a few edits on BitChute. At the request of a commenter, I've added a post edit in regards to the thing with person 1 and 2. Also, I removed all identifiable info from the video, including Septy's email. So if for whatever reason the mirrors on Rumble and Odyssey go down, we've got a little extra protection. Go check out the video on those sites if you wish. Also, if you want to financially support your girl, be sure to check it out on Rumble as I'm monetized on there. Not that it matters right now, as I'm more concerned about getting the word out about Asher, but you know, just in case. Let's continue. Afterwards, Septy's next post is saying stuff we already countered, but it also has another sentence that can only be described as more coercion into keeping people quiet.
You're a loser. Everything you say only makes me want to not take the diplomatic approach with Carmen.
Septy, we've long passed a diplomatic approach. Even if you gave me a 100% accurate Virgo replica, I still wouldn't want to take said approach. And this is the same thing again, but Septy calls Kirito an incel. We really do be taking the Funimation voice actor approach to things now, have we? Either way, I'm not scared of a lawyer. How many times now have creators been threatened with a lawsuit under the guise of "You said a mean thing about me online"? Derek Savage, Illuminati, Claire Bear, Diane Kelly, Digital Homicide, and I think even Cosmodor have all done this tactic and have failed. Septy is no different. So, while I thought I finished this video, a new community post came out saying that somebody had a lawyer, and that apparently was a parent of their boyfriend, meaning they don't have to pay for a lawyer. Obviously I panicked, but once dawn came, I had a thought. Was Septy's info really one Google search away from being found? So I searched. I started off with the Blake Heist email, and every single search engine I could think of came empty-handed, outside of Akosha, which was nothing but ads based on my location. Afterwards, I checked with the Mikey email. Baidu, DuckDuckGo, StartPage, Yahoo, and Yandex came empty-handed. Google did yield some results, though. It was only images and nothing related to SeptyPaws. Bing was nothing but weirdly ad-like articles, and one result for PeopleLooker. And before you ask, PeopleLooker does not work outside of the US, and Septy is not a US citizen yet. And lastly, Akosha was again nothing but ads. By the way, I didn't look this up in order to dox Septy or anything. This was just to check if they were full of shit or not. After all, like Septy said, if your information is so easily accessible, it's not bad, right? But yeah, nothing. Now I did find the people search site Septy used to find my info, but I won't be naming it since I want to get my information removed from it first. However, I was able to confirm that, yes, my info was there, with an outdated address. Now, I don't know how much it has on me beyond my name and that address, since everything else has a paywall. But either way, I didn't consent to my info being on this site, and I sure as hell didn't consent to Septy finding it. And as if it couldn't get any worse, at one point I checked my Discord messages, and it seems Tommy passed a message along to me from Nil. Pause and read if you like, but it turns out Septy had been planning this for 32 days! The video I made about the situation with Asher didn't even exist for 32 days. So you know how Septy is always talking about, why can't you just leave me alone and let me move on? Well, turns out, according to Nil, SeptyPaws has been hyperbolically fixated on me. Septy has been holding on to my info for over a month, and only revealed that they had it after they falsely sent a privacy complaint to me. May I remind you that this is the same person who tried to have Nil get her mafia friends to assassinate me? What is stopping Septy from using this information to end someone's life? I don't know about you, but holding on to someone's former address for over a month is a hell of a lot more stalker-like than me simply looking at their Twitter and YouTube. I must also remind you that all of this happened because I was mean to someone on Discord. That's it. We went from petty Discord shit to threatening lawsuits and doxing. All because I was mean to someone on Discord. What the fuck? Another thing that I've thought of. Now, Septy's made a video where they discuss a story where they were pursued by the police for not appearing in court in their country on the basis of, I'm not in Hungary anymore. It led to the point where Septy's mother was hounded by police, all because Septy didn't show up for a court date. Now, this is obviously a dick move on Septy's part and a fatal misunderstanding of how the law works, but I want to put this in perspective. Septy thinks that appearing in court as a witness for their own mother is a waste of time when the police are haggling her over fines. Yet taking someone to court over YouTube drama and dedicating time to finding personal info about them isn't. Jesus Christ. Now, assuming that Septy still has a case with these people, I propose a question. Who's your lawyer? I mean, obviously, if you're serious about this, then surely you wouldn't mind me knowing who they are. And if they exist, and you're not pulling a, my dad works for PlayStation and can ban you, then surely they must have a public website like all lawyers do, huh? Anyone find it strange that despite these lawyers most likely knowing Septy, they only try to get lawyers involved in it now? Why not in the early days of this drama when the true SeptyPaws came out? If this magical free lawyer truly exists, then why only pull it out now? This just further proves that these lawyers might not even exist. The more and more I go into this shit, the more and more plausible this seems. But you know, stuff like this really just further screws over freedom of speech on YouTube. Back in the day, you could criticize anyone you wanted on YouTube. Just don't make death threats and you'll be fine. Nowadays, if you say the wrong thing about someone who has more money, less to lose, the right connections, or some combination of the three, you might just end up at the end of a takedown, a C&D, or even a lawsuit. All done under the guise of anti-bullying, or anti-toxicity, or god forbid, inclusiveness. From digital homicide to Nintendo Ninjas, to Roblox versus Ruben Sim, to pick a side YouTube, to this. And YouTube kinda just lets it happen. They don't give you the resources to defend yourself. And when they do, you often have to go through hoops, or fork over something you can't afford to give away. And when you do succeed in taking a problem person down, YouTube often punishes the community with an adpocalypse, indirectly making you the bad guy, like some sort of fucked up peer pressure culture to have people to keep silent about talking about issues on this website. Unless you have a high subscriber count, YouTube doesn't give a shit what happens to you. Another content creator could probably kill you, and if you're not as big as PewDiePie, Mr. Beast, Markiplier, or any of the top dogs, YouTube isn't gonna care. It's all just tiresome. Anyways, gamers, have a good night.